Mr. Chairman, thanks for this opportunity. Would you pray with me this afternoon? Our gracious God, on this 283rd day of this year, we pause to give you thanks. You are the source of life and love, hope and peace, and we thank you for the fresh start and a possibility of this new day. I pray that all of us, especially these chosen leaders, will be directed by the Holy Spirit in every decision they make. Will bless this county we call home. We lift each agenda item and each county department employee represented here today. We pray that our agenda will follow your agenda, that we live united as your beloved community. I pray that you will give our leaders justice and righteousness, your wisdom and courage, protect and bless their families. Grant these your servant everything they need, most of all a servant heart, that they will fulfill their important role in making our county a better home for all of us. I pray we will leave this place even better than we found it, passing to the next generation a legacy of mutual care and unity that celebrates our diversity. All truth is your truth, and people come to know you and your will in many different ways. Blessing, honor, and glory and power belongs to you, the one sitting on the throne. I offer this prayer in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. Just a few moments ago, I came from the first home dedication of the first home in Morlock Meadows. Is that what it's called? It was a great time down there as a family of 5 was receiving the keys to their first home that they've owned. A wonderful thing. I'm so glad that I get to go before our trustee who comes up later, because he's already threatened a very long meeting, and I'm sure he will hold true to that as he usually does. But I get to go first and make it an even longer meeting. If I take one and pass it around. It's the annual time to look at renewing health insurance for our employees, one of the most larger expenses in Bradley County's budget each year is health care for employees. And we've got 2 parts I'm going to pass around. I won't go into a lot of detail unless you ask questions. I'll be happy to. We went into great detail last week at the insurance committee meeting, and they'll have a recommendation for you later. But to bring you up to speed, we've gone through the process of getting the claims history and getting it to the various insurance companies to get their offer of contracting with the county. This year, we had a renewal offer from Cigna of a 5% increase, which was pretty good when you look at things in this day and time. Average price out there of increases in prices is 8-point-something%. So they were offering to renew at 5%. We sent out the packets to various companies. I'll go over those if you want me to. Humana declined to quote. United Healthcare declined to quote. We did get 2 quotes, one from the state of Tennessee, which, as you know, we've been with before in the past. That would be the easy one for me to take because we don't have to fill with bidding each year. But a lot of reasons why I don't care for them. They're not the best price and they're not the best service to our employees. But anyway, they did present us a price, an average of about 15% increase over the current year. And then we did get a bid from Blue Cross of 13.3% increase. So at that point, we went back to Cigna, who had offered a 5% increase, and after a lot more negotiations and working with them, we were able to get them at a renewal on option 1, 2, and 3 What you have in front of you is 4 options, but option 1, 2, and 3, the same exact options that we have this year, will be going up with this proposal at 4.6%. Then we continued to work on something we've been looking at for the last couple of years, and this year we were able to offer option 4, which we're very excited about. I think this will be a good option for a lot of people. And there's others here to talk about option 4 in just a minute. But option 4 is a new option that we're throwing in there. If you go down your spreadsheet, option 1, that's some might call the Cadillac plan. Option 2 is the HSA plan, which is also a very good plan, where you get $50 put in your HSA account per month from the county, and then you manage your insurance somewhat with an HSA. Option 3 is the buy-up plan. That's by choice if someone wants to take the Cadillac and buy up so that they include all the open access network, which is basically the Park Ridge Hospital network and their doctors. And then now option 4. Option 4 has a little bit higher deductibles than option 1, 2, and 3. It's still a really good plan, but it does have somewhat higher options. But in addition to the insurance plan, it also has the direct primary care physician clinic, something that a lot of employees have been requesting. I've had employees say, just give me the direct primary care membership and I don't need the insurance. But that's not correct. We have to provide insurance because the direct primary care, I often say, if you get out and have a wreck, you're in a coma for 2 weeks, direct primary care does you no good. Heart attack or stroke, direct primary care does you no good, so you've got to have insurance along with it. So option 4 is a somewhat higher deductible insurance plan, but also includes membership through the direct primary care clinic. I'll stop there in case if you have questions. We have Pam here with Ocoee Insurance, the broker. We have Sam here with Cigna, the one that we're proposing to renew with. And then we also have Brian Fratwell that's here with the Direct Primary Care Associates. First of all, on the insurance part, is there any questions? And then Brian will come up and talk about the direct primary care more in just a second. Any questions about the insurance options, the 4 options?
Anyone have a question?
If there's no questions there, Brian, if you want to come on up and I'll pass out. He has a folder for each one. If you'll take one and pass it around, Mr. Beatty, that will tell you all about, you'll probably have lots of questions asked of you of the direct primary care option. That's what we're referring to option 4 as. Like I said, the spreadsheet will tell you the insurance benefits, and then he will explain in more detail the direct primary care benefits. So, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity, County Commissioners, to explain to you more like a 60,000-foot overview of what direct primary care is. What you're getting or what the employees are getting in direct primary care is actually service and not a program. What I mean by that is they get direct access to healthcare provider, doctors, physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners. The way we do medicine is a little bit differently. I think again, a broad overview is anybody who elects this plan is now going to have their own, what we consider an advanced primary care clinic. They get urgent care, family medicine, and telemed directly linked to their healthcare provider. They also get within those services labs, or regular routine labs, and access to a pharmacy. And that is at no cost, no additional cost to them, no copays, no deductibles. No copays, no deductibles on the pharmacy side, no copays, no deductibles on the lab side. Everything that's included, and you'll see in the packet that was given to you, there's kind of 2 sides there. One is the brochure that just kind of gives a brief overview of what it is that we do and the services that we provide. Again, you have to think anything that happens in the family medicine office, we do. Everything from regular routine sports exams, yearly physicals, well woman exams, well men exams, to taking care of blood pressure, cholesterol, asthma, diabetes, all again, those regular routine things. We also do urgent care. So if your employees cut themselves or have a cold or a cough or a rash or whatever, we take care of all of those things too. Again, at no additional cost to the employees of Bradley County who elect this particular option. Now, the other side that you'll see is something that is a program that we've worked on internally for about 2.5 years, and you guys are the first ones getting it. going to be access to, everybody who signs up for this is going to have access to over 1,000 generic medications at no additional cost to them. Anything that's on that list, and it's quite exhaustive, your employees are going to be able to access that again at no additional cost to them. It'll be a home delivery type program. So with us, we'll send the medicines in. They'll get their medicines typically within 2 to 3 days. If they need something acute or need something right away, they'll be able to go to any pharmacy that they want and pick those up. They'll actually have their own card directly from us that helps with that. We do medicine a little bit differently. We're not like your typical walk-in clinic or not like your typical family medicine office. The two things that we address directly is, and the two things that hold up everybody across the U.S., not just here in Bradley County, is access and time. We all know how long it takes, whatever clinic that you go to, and the cost. So we address those two things. We drive the cost of medicine down by doing a monthly membership. It's kind of like having Netflix. The more people we have on it, the more services that we could provide. And we do continue to innovate. We do continue to grow. We do continue to explore ideas and ways to bring down healthcare. The pharmacy program that you have in your hands is a result of the successes that we've had over the last 4 years. What you see in the brochure is where we started, and what you see in the 5-page handout there, front and back, where we're at today. How we're different too is when you walk into our clinics, we don't have a waiting room. We don't do walk-ins, but we do appointments. We typically will get your folks in to see them in less than 24 hours. Typically same day. If they call at 4:30 on a Thursday, we're typically going to see them the next day, okay? If it's something we need to take care of right away, we have telemedicine, so we'll take care of that. So that being said, if your folks need to be seen, we see them. We block out time for your employees. What that means is they get their own time slot. When your appointment's at 9:30, you're seen at 9:30. Your employees are going to be able to pick 1 or 2 time slots, either 30 minutes or 1 hour, and they get to pick how long they want to be seen. Now, we don't hold them hostage. They don't have to stay in that space with us, for the 30 minutes to an hour, but we block out that space, and we don't double book. We don't have somebody else waiting on us, so we actually get to sit down and take time, get to know your employees, build a relationship with them and their families, and ultimately provide exceptional health care, because that's really where our goal is to drive down the cost of health care while providing excellence in care. And this is one of the ways that we do it. Employer-funded health care, as you guys know, and what you're going to talk about today, one of the biggest expenses that most companies and most officials, government officials, have is healthcare spend. But we're a small part of what that spend is, actually probably the smallest part, but we're the access to care that so many of your employees are really looking for. And I've said it in the insurance meeting, I'll say it again today. Pam and Gary, or Mayor Pam, have worked really, really hard at getting this program to you guys and to the employees of this county. That's the big vision. Does anybody have any questions of me?
The challenge with insurance for our county, I think, is in the family plans and in the deductibles. For many of our employees, it has a tough time coming up with $7,000, $3,500 to get into this.
Sure.
Have you all looked at that? How does you come up with $7,000 before you do the plan that you're talking about, correct?
No, sir.
How does that work?
With
How does
this
the
plan,
deductible work?
yes, with this plan, we are really quite separate from the insurance part. We don't take insurance.
You're not in this plan.
I'm sorry, sir.
You're not in this plan.
We are included in where that gap is. Think
Okay.
of us in fitting that hole.
Okay.
Where that hole is out of your employees' pockets is us. They don't have to spend anything to come see us.
Okay.
Absolutely free to them. The medicines are absolutely free. The visits, anything that we do in the office, from EKGs, pulmonary function tests, flu tests, strep tests, joint injections,
Yeah.
skin biopsies,
Yeah.
anything that happens is now included and is not going to go towards that deductible.
So they're paying a monthly rate.
Correct.
You know what that would be?
It was a pre-negotiated rate that we had with the county.
Can I jump in, Commissioner?
Yeah, sure.
Keep in mind, direct primary care does all the things he said. The insurance part of it is in case you need insurance that's outside of the scope of what he does. And that's why I mentioned the heart attacks, the strokes, the wrecks, you're in the coma. That's where those limits kick in. But you look at the bottom of that option, if you take option 4, it's going to be free to you, and that includes the membership to the direct primary care clinic.
Got it. Yeah.
If you take the family plan, the cost is what's on that form, and that includes the family membership to the direct primary care thing. So none of those deductibles pertain to them. It just pertains in case you need insurance that's outside of the scope of what they do. And they do so many things, but there's some big things they don't do, of course.
So, you know, when you're looking at this and how we fit into this plan and how we fit into this particular option 4, you know, the thing to think about is how many people actually access and hit their out-of-pocket max, you know, what percentage, and how we can mitigate some of those costs for them. We certainly don't take care of everything. We want all of our patients to have some sort of secondary insurance. Looking across the gambit of around 65, 68 plus companies that we take care of in Eastern Tennessee, that this option 4 is just about accurate, probably middle of the road. We have some that have much higher deductibles. So again, we tend to fit in that hole that deductible makes. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Goins.
We are, our address is 2626 Peerless Road. It probably should be more like Klingen Ridge Road, right across from St. Therese Catholic Church, right behind Caldwell Banker there, right on the corner. Yes, it was Ocoee Pediatrics building.
Commissioner Rogers.
Mayor, if you would mind, let me say a few things from the insurance committee. And Commissioner Winters, you kind of talked about that $3,500 and $7,000 deductible. For many county employees, they've been used to a Cadillac plan that is a $500 deductible and a $1,000 deductible. And with that comes a higher cost, a higher monthly deductible, which for option 1, for a family, the new rate would be $1,072. At $1,000 family deductible, I mean, that is more than a Cadillac. That is probably some of the best insurance that you can find. As an example, in the business world, and to say this, let me first say this too, is that when I took this seat, I took family insurance, and I took my family off the insurance that I was provided at my business and moved it over to county insurance because of just that, because of that deductible and of the cost of it. At my company, our deductible is $5,500 for an individual and $11,000 for a family. The out-of-pocket max for a family is $21,000. And so for a deductible of $7,000 for a family is still, it might be a higher deductible than what we're used to, but that deductible is still well below, I would say, the national average currently for most businesses and for all businesses. In the insurance committee, and thankfully we now stream all those. You can go back and watch in the public, and people can go back and watch and see. A lot of these questions were answered and asked, and one of the main things that we asked, and one of the concerns for me was, say I sign up for option 4 because it's $779 for a family or $740 for a family plus one. Say I don't like your business, or I don't like coming to your doctor, or I really love my doctor that I've had, can I keep my doctor? And the answer to that question was yes, is that you can still go and see your doctor and still have a lower cost of coverage. Your deductible might just be higher than the normal $500 or $1,000 that it might be with option 1. If you go down the line and you look, most if not all things are either the same when it comes to primary care and specialists. Urgent care is up a little bit, but when it comes to prescription drugs, on that option 4, you can see that they're $5 higher, $5, and then $20 higher. The great thing is that with that option 4, you get direct primary care, and over 1,000 of the drugs that they have, which if you look at that list, honestly, it's a great job that you guys did putting this together, because 85%, or probably even more than that, of the drugs that you would need for a normal year are covered. And with Direct Primary Care and Associates, you guys, and this was something that also was stated, is that 85% of the medical emergencies or the medical things that are going on in a family, flu, sickness, stomach ache, rashes, if you cut yourself playing in the backyard, whatever it might be, these guys take care of it. And thankfully, you kind of have, I think we kind of got the mayor not to say catastrophic insurance anymore, because it's not really catastrophic insurance. But you have an insurance on that back end to where if you needed to go to an Erlanger or to a Memorial, that you would still be provided good health insurance to be able to pay for that going forward.
Commissioner Blake.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, back to Commissioner Winters. I understand it's free to the employee, but we're gonna have to send them a check for for the membership. I guess, two questions. You have no idea, the enrollment's gonna start here in a couple of weeks, so you don't really know how many people are gonna go to option 4. Does the membership cost, is it derived on how many people signed up for option 4?
No,
I'm assuming more the merrier on that.
no, it's a negotiated price, $70 for an individual and $118.65, I believe, for a family. That's our cost. That has nothing to do with the employees because we're providing that membership, whichever.
So you're not, okay, that answers my, you're not worried about, you gotta have a certain number of people sign up for option 4 in order to get a certain rate?
That was discussed in arguing and discussing and negotiating the rates with them. I say they'll have more than they think they might, but it'll be part of next year's negotiation if we have a good number. You're right.
Right, and just for everybody else's benefit, I was at Commissioner, or Chairman Rogers' Insurance Committee, and if, I asked the question to the gentleman that if we have a large number of people sign up for this, they're ready and able to handle the capacity of the number of employees that potentially could show up, day in, day out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions for Brian? Because I don't want to leave him standing there. If there's not, he'll be here next week also. If some questions come up this week, we'll try to answer them. If not, he'll be at the meeting next Monday. We're asking insurance. They'll be asking you to put it on the agenda. I didn't get a question from Mr. Hughes, and that means I took care of his problem. Sometimes I have to point those things out. Another thing that's been requested for several years is a 3-tier plan. We've always offered family, we've always offered employee, and then family. This year, if you look at the options down at the bottom, you have employee plus 1. I said there's no changes in option 1, 2, and 3. There's no changes in the benefits, but these are 3-tier plans. So the employee now will have an option. If it's a single parent with a child, they can get their employee free, and they can buy the plus 1 plan, a little bit less expensive than a full-fledged family plan. So this is a 3-tier plan on option 1, 2, 3, and 4. In addition to option 4, higher deductibles than the others, but still pretty good deductibles, and it also includes the direct primary care. Our challenge at this point, if you approve it next week, I'm superstitious. So after next week, we will be looking at having a meeting with all elected officials and department heads, just so you know. Getting in front of the employees is like impossible. So we're asking the elected officials and the department heads to get the information to their employees. If they're to know about option 4, now granted, on the day of registration, enrollment, they'll be there to answer questions. But most people don't waste the time, in their opinion, coming to enrollments. And then they spend the next year complaining about a benefit that's free to them, and they really don't have any idea about the benefit options because they didn't come to the enrollment meetings. So this year, we're going to put the elected officials and the department heads on a, please get your employees to this meeting. If you're concerned about your employees and the benefits not being what they want or think or expect, get them to the meetings, get them to the enrollment meetings, so that Cigna will be there to explain the options, the benefits with option 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Brian and his team will be there to explain the direct primary care. If they don't come to those meetings, though, it can't get explained to them. And since we do direct deposit, we can't even correspond with them with a check like we used to. We'd put information with the check. Well, now everybody's on direct deposit, so that doesn't fly. But we're going to ask those people to be in a meeting one day next week and hopefully get their buy-in. if every elected official, and I can assure you the department heads will buy in, if every elected official will also buy in and talk to their employees, this thing will go a lot further. These are great benefits. I've been using the word Cadillac for years, and he used a better term a minute ago. It's really better than a Cadillac, and I don't know what that is in American-made cars. It'd probably be one of those foreign cars. But we've always offered the Cadillac plan, and it's always been free. The family is where the complaint is because it's expensive. Option 4 brings that family cost way, way down. And really, even if you don't have a family, it might be the best option for everybody because you can go to the doctor as many times as you want to, as you need to, I guess I should say, and get 1,000 prescriptions included. I shouldn't say this with Cigna sitting back there, but hopefully direct primary care stops you using the insurance over time, and that will help down the road too. But right now, it'll be according to how many people sign up for it. Any questions about any of that? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, at the insurance committee meeting, you mentioned that there was only 8 families insured. 8 family plans is all you had. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's because if they were talking to me, I would suggest they go buy their family a plan from an independent agent, and they can get a lot better price doing it that way. And I think over time, a lot of them have done that. Plus, a lot of them have a spouse that works, and they may have the family through the spouse. So a combination of those, there's only 8 people on the plan, but yet you people hear complaints about the cost of family all the time. No,
that also
only 8 are
included-
paying that. Yes, sir.
Is that including employee plus one? Is that part of the family, employee plus
Well,
one?
we didn't have the +1 until now, so we don't have
don't
that
know yet,
number,
okay.
but that's who bought actual family.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Important subject. You'll hear about it a lot. You new commissioners, you'll learn that you will hear about it a lot. You need to be up to speed on it so you can take care of the complaint or issue when it's brought to you. We try to handle them. That's why we have a broker to go to if there's issues concerning the insurance. Brian and his people will be available if you take that option and you have issues to go to. But getting the employee to that meeting and hearing the presentation of what these options are and knowing the true cost is our challenge, and we're going to hopefully address that better this year than we have in the past, and hopefully that will cut down on some of that, but I don't know. If there's no other questions, Brian, I appreciate you being here. Be back next week at 12 o'clock also. And
Tim Tatum will be here for that.
Tim will be here in your place. You won't have to look at this guy's ugly face again.
Good Lord.
Now, Brian, we appreciate you being here. Sam, will you be able to be here next week? Sam is with Cigna back there and Pam with Ocoee Insurance. By the way, did I mention to you again that we did bid insurance this year? I just want to say that again. We did bid insurance this year. We bid it almost every single year, and it's one of the things you'll be told. Well, why don't they ever bid the insurance? You guys need to know the answer to that. We bid it almost every year. If I need to, I'll go over the percentages of the results of this year. There were similar results last year. 2 years ago, we didn't bid it because we had an offer to renew at 0, and only an idiot wouldn't pursue signing up with someone that offered you a 0 increase in this day and time, especially with health care. But we bid insurance, I'll say it again, we bid insurance almost every year. So please remember that and repeat it if you ever have the opportunity, because you will hear otherwise. No questions? If not, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I overheard someone up here on that Cadillac plan. It could be the Navigator plan.
Yeah, we'll call it the Navigator plan if you want to.
The lady, Ocoee Insurance, would please up. Can't hear you. You have to get up.
I just wanted to mention, he was talking about the meeting that we're going to have for the department heads and the elected officials. We're tentatively planning that for next week on the 18th at lunchtime. Since you haven't made your final decision and voted on any of that yet, I hesitate to have anything firm, but I wanted to let you know that that's what we're tentatively planning. So if you do approve everything at your meeting next week, the luncheon is. But we're going to send out an email about that, or the mayor's office may send it, I'm not sure. But if you want to go ahead and put that on your calendars, it would be Tuesday at 12, and then we'll send you the detailed information about it later.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pam.
Before we get into the committees, I will, and district reports, I'd like to go over something briefly for the benefit of the new commissioners, and that has to deal with the resolutions. And it comes out of the Bradley County Commission Rules of Procedure. Any proposed resolution may be introduced only by a member of the board, that would be one of us, and the clerk or chairperson shall not receive or file any resolution that is not reduced to writing and signed by at least 2 members of the board. Now, this is a touchy point because you'll occasionally hear, I'm going to second the motion for the purpose of discussion. I mean, you can say anything you want to up here. But a resolution may have as many signatures as there are members of the board. However, the first 2 signatures on the resolution shall be deemed the author of the purpose of the debate. So when you second the motion, you have therefore said, I'm co-author of this thing. I just want to make sure you are aware of that. There's not a problem or anything like that. And I'd like to start the district reports with Commissioner Beatty.
Everything looks pretty good in the first district.
Great. Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I've had a few complaints. It's some that we've already discussed, but it was dealing with cash in the landfill. They're still not accepting cash, and I know we've already looked into it, and nothing in the contract says they have to. However, I still get the complaints, so as my job, I have to pass those along.
Thank you very much. We just need to pass it along to the landfill people. A lot of people don't have checking accounts, and they, for the small amount of trash they have, they would like to pay cash. That's something we probably need to remember down the road. Commissioner Alford.
Second district, doing well.
Thank you. Commissioner Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All's well in the 3rd District. Just one last reminder, tomorrow is the last day you can register to vote, or if you've moved from another county into Bradley County, to have your documentation updated so that it reflects that, so you get to the right precinct. But tomorrow is the last day, and early voting starts next Wednesday at 8 sharp.
Great. Is that it? Commissioner Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All's fine in the 3rd District.
That's great. Commissioner Winters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 7th District is doing well. I have a report to make regarding the cemeteries of Bradley County. It seems to have been my lot now to spend time with the cemeteries, but it's important to do. This is the heritage of this community. This is the legacy of this community. These are people that fought in wars for this country. These are people that were leaders in this community that are in our cemeteries. I can say that there's been some very good work by the people that have been involved. Both Sunset and Hillcrest are moving forward. I think they're being mowed every 2 weeks by a crew that comes in and does that. I think kudos to the district attorney's office, a gentleman that works in that office named Hicks that's worked very hard to connect with Atlanta as well to make sure that this is moving forward. I have had contacts regarding, let's don't forget, Fort Hill. Fort Hill is probably the oldest of all of these, and it does have some work to be done there. But I want you to look at your packet. The color-coded page here is from Gary Austin. Gary Austin has been the chairperson of the association that looks over Fort Hill. I think he inherited that from his father, Leon Austin. But he has presented us a map of Fort Hill, how Fort Hill is being worked on, and the entities. It's got the street numbers, it's paid. There's a budget that's involved. As all budgets, it doesn't seem to be enough, but it is a budget that the city and county provide for Fort Hill. There is also some reporting here about our environmental specialist officer over here, Mr. Mason, and his crew with the sheriff have spent a lot of time on Fort Hill doing great work to keep it up. In one of the sections, there are multiple sections that are on here at Fort Hill, but there's an association that's involved in this. and actually makes it happen. You can see the amount of money there. This is the last form that he had to share with me, but there is fine movement. Keep America Beautiful has spent time there and done some extra work there. So there's some movement on Fort Hill. The people that have complained a little bit about it seem to be very, very pleased with what's going on. So we'll be keeping an eye on it there. But I'm glad to be able to give a good report. And this has been the community working together. All these people that we didn't know were there are doing the good work. There is a challenge with land that is presumed to be public and could be used for other things around, particularly Fort Hill as well as Hillcrest, and this has caused people to congregate around the areas around the cemetery. But the community's working to make sure that they don't desecrate an area that's in honor of those that have gone before us. So there's movement to make sure that those that want to do encampments around the cemeteries are encouraged not to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's what I
Thank you very much, and I want to applaud you for a job well done. You are making progress. Lord only knows how long we've been working on Fort Hill. The only part up there really is a veterans cemetery that they maintain it themselves. Thank
Chairman?
you. Yes.
Just a question to Mr. Winters, if you don't mind. Looking at this map and everything, why is there a discrepancy between what the county and the city pays?
Commissioner Alford, I think this is an old form, to be honest with you. He had to find it in a file, Gary. So there, I think as I've been appraised, it's to be 50-50 city and county on this. But that was the figures he tossed out there, and there's a shortfall in that. I'll follow that up with your.
I would appreciate
approval.
that, because I think it should be an equal, at least an equal payment.
The figures I have here, the county participates, I believe, with $16,000, the city with $10,000 for a total of $26,000. Anyone else on that before we move on? Okay, Commissioner Gilbert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Winters, too. My parents are buried out there, my brothers and family, and I sure do appreciate you taking care of that. You do an amazing job. You didn't have to take that on, but thank you so much for it. And everything's looking good in the 4th District, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Goins. Oh, Howard, I'm sorry, Howard. I've left your name out.
Too little to say.
Too little, oh,
okay. We were talking, again, I hate to keep bringing this up, cash at the landfill. You know, we bring this up, I don't know how many times it's been brought up, but it's time that we put some teeth in this thing and get it done. It's, we've asked them, and it's in the contract, so I think that we need to send them a letter from this commission and demand that they get started immediately on cash, because there's a lot of questions asked outside of in the county here wanting to pay cash. So we keep bringing it up, but it's not getting anywhere.
You like to place that on the agenda? That we
Mike, he's on the landfill too there.
I don't understand how you could deny a legal tender. So, you know, as far as I know, money is a legal tender and will be for as long as we're the United States.
Yeah.
So that's where I have my issue at.
I totally agree with you. I went to a coffee shop the other day and they didn't take a dollar bill, so it wasn't legal tender. I decided myself.
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put that on the agenda to send them a letter from this commission and ask them again about taking cash. I know that he stood right out here, if I'm not mistaken, and said that they would take cash. So this is something that we probably need to follow up on. I know they get tired of us aggravating them, but that's what we're here for. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Now we'll get around to Commissioner Goins. No, you don't have to go along with it, but you can second it. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sixth District's doing well. Saturday, October the 15th, is our Household Hazardous Waste Day at the Bradley County Justice Center. It'll be from 8 to noon, and we invite all the county and city residents to come on out and be with us. I know the big game's at 3:30. We will have you out of their way before the game, and if you have tickets, lucky you. Like to say thanks to Mayor Davis for putting this event on. Thanks to Sheriff Steve Lawson he always opens up the sheriff's office. It's a great place to have at the facility. I know this is my 15th or 16th event. We used to have it in an area that was no pavement, and if you've ever tried to get tractor and trailers in an area where there's mud, it causes a lot of problems. So thanks to the sheriff, and we'll see all the new guys that's up here come on out and see the event. It's pretty cool what we do out there. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Blake.
If I could add to what Commissioner Mason was talking about, Keep America Beautiful will be there as well. But just to let everybody know, this is paid for out of the landfill money. It's not using property tax money or sales tax money. I think, Mayor, it's about a budget of $100,000. We used to have 2 of them, but I think the cost went up to where you can only do 1. But still, imagine this: all that stuff that's going to be collected it's going to be properly disposed of. It is what it is. I mean, hazardous material is going to be properly disposed of and not go into a landfill. So just let you know, it's not taxpayers' money, and it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. I'd like to go back and clarify a small bit here for Commissioner Goins on what I covered. You are considered an author of the resolution. That does not mean you have to vote for it. Okay, but I just want to make sure you understood that. Okay. Commissioner Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commissioner Winters, I also have parents buried in the Fort Hill Cemetery, and not parents, my grandparents are buried there. That is a creepy place to go at night. So, but anyway, thank you for that. I have a couple more items here. Had a constituent call me on a drain issue on Arrowhead Lane. I called Tom Collins. Tom went out. This property was deemed to be on private property between the 2 property lines. The drain under a driveway was stopped up. And of course, it being on private property, Tom talked to the lady, called her up, and told her, went out and looked at it and seen that the stoppage was on the neighbor's property. So he said there was nothing he could do. It was private property, but told her the solution. So thank Tom Collins for doing that. And the lady, I called her back and followed up, and she said that she would talk to the neighbor to see about mowing that up. It's got some trees growing out of it, and it's all got some silt in it. Just needs to be cleaned out, because this drain, when it rains, it would drain off into her spring, which she uses. So thank Tom Collins again for taking care of that quickly. I called him on a Friday. On a Monday, he called her, set up an appointment for Tuesday, got out there and got that solved, and I was talking to her with the resolution that it was fixed, or that it had a solution to it by Wednesday. So thanks, Tom Collins. My other item, Mr. Chairman, is I wish to place on the November the 7th, 2022 voting session agenda a resolution to amend Rule Number 3 of the Bradley County Commission Rules of Procedure regarding the order of business for the commission agenda. This resolution basically moves communication from the audience from the end of the meeting up to item number 4 on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 things today. Mr. Chairman, the Insurance Committee met last week and voted to recommend the new insurance plan presented by the mayor this morning or this afternoon. The mayor will have that resolution for all of us in our packets on Friday that Lori will send out on Friday. I ask that this resolution be put on next week's voting section. second thing is, Mr. Chairman, before you today is a resolution that will establish the Parks and Recreation Ad Hoc Committee. This ad hoc committee will determine how Bradley County can increase activities, create more participation, better equip our facilities, increase the revenue of Bradley County Parks and Rec Department. This ad hoc committee will not be looking at sports rules, rulings, or statutes about players or coaching personnel or scheduling. Those items will be left to the rec board and that is appointed by the county commission. The goal of this committee is to determine the capacity and standards of our fields, gyms, and other rec facilities in Bradley County, review current recreation offerings and the need for new recreation opportunities in Bradley County. This committee will create a plan of action for growing the offering of the Bradley County Rec Department, the facilities, and overall recreation department's investment in Bradley County. We will determine new revenue streams and growth opportunities for the rec department and explore bringing new events to Bradley County. This committee will also explore and find potential funding opportunities such as grants, sponsorships, and private donations for new facilities and facility upgrades, events, and offerings. Mr. Chairman, I ask that this resolution also be placed on the October 17th voting session.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Commissioner Hughes. Who, me? Commissioner Ledford authored it. I have not. Oh, Commissioner Rogers. I told him it would be all right to form the committee. I'm all for improving our sources of income as long as we have the restrictions that he has placed on it. I think it's a little unusual that before it's approved, we name the members of the committee. That's basically one of the main issues I had against it. But yes, I'll co-author that.
I had a question if you'd help co-author it or not, because there was members that was already named in the positions. The other is that this is an ad hoc committee, and I'm trying to understand if it's a committee, a new committee being formed, or an ad hoc committee, because it says members serve 12 months term with the following initial committees. It doesn't actually say an ending date, and most of our ad hoc committees have an ending date on them. This doesn't really have an ending date or anything. It's one that goes until the job is done, then it's ended. Doesn't have a period of time that's given for
it. I see nothing wrong with your comments that you make there. Commissioner Rogers, can you take these into consideration?
Could you repeat that last part that you said, Commissioner Hughes, just so I could have clarification? It was hard to hear.
It's fine. And that's the reason I was bringing it up, was because I'm actually not against this. I understand it. There's just a few issues that I had.
Sure.
It was one where it was naming the members. For example, I would personally think that, one, it's up to the chairman, but the other is that Andy would have been a perfect person to have on this ad hoc committee because of him. It fits his area of expertise. The other is where it says the members will serve a 12-month term. Typically, we don't put an ending date, is because once they're done, the ad hoc committee is done away with. The way this is written, it almost sounds like after that 12-month period, then a new group are reassigned.
And we can restate that. The intent of that part is that it is an ad hoc committee. And many times in the past, we've seen ad hoc committees that last longer than a certain term that is allowed. How it should have read was in the fact that the expiration of this ad hoc committee will be complete in 12 months, that this is a 1-year ad hoc committee.
Yes.
And that once that committee is, after that year, it can be brought back up as another resolution to either continue the ad hoc committee or, in the committee at that point in time.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. I actually agree with the way you're rewording it. It's just, it's almost open-ended right the way it is at this point.
And we can edit that if needed.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, Commissioner Blake.
Commissioner Rogers, on that's a good point. So the sole purpose of this ad hoc committee is to make a formal recommendation to the full commission at some point in time, not to go out there and negotiate any agreements or anything like that, but at some point in time, a presentation or documentation on a formal recommendation is forthcoming.
The hope and goal, if you don't mind, Commissioner Blake, the hope and goal of this committee is to take our recreation department and look at it just as we did in the past commission, in the past 4 years, as the commissioners who were here before did with sewer. Create a plan of action to look at and see how we can better equip our facilities, better grow our facilities, and create a plan of action that will be able to allow Andy and again, Commissioner Hughes, to his point here, is that Andy and I had spoke about this, and on here, the person that was named, that the last person that was named on here is the chairperson of the rec board, to have his board on there as well, Bartley Norton. The goal is, yes, to create a recommendation that we can provide to the county commission and also to the mayor and his department to look at finding new opportunities of growth, new recreation facilities, and then also included in that is to find new sources of funding, whether that be through grants, private donations, or sponsorships from many opportunity sponsorships, whether it's through someone like Nike or Adidas or whoever that might be. There are tons of sponsorships available throughout the country.
Mr. Thompson.
Got the recreation director here. What you got to say about this? Okay. As long as you're fine with it, that's.
Commissioner Winters.
One of the challenges with a resolution coming before there's debate, of course, have these kind of dialogues, is it's already in print or we see it. So typically, the committees meet, then they bring it to a work session, and the resolution is done by our fine team that puts the resolution together as to how it has been crafted. When it comes, put the cart before the horse, it gets a little bit of more dialogue than if it's already being debated and discussed, particularly the first changing our whole order of business with a resolution before we have an opportunity to discuss this resolution. This idea to have it in print, have it done by our attorney or by our administrative assistant, puts the cart a little bit before the horse. So we don't really have an opportunity to feel like we can have this dialogue because we already have it in writing, already have it put together on both of the resolutions that have been given.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this resolution was done by the fine committee that you talked about. Ms. Moultrie was the one who wrote this resolution and gave it to Crystal for her to review.
Right.
The chairman of this county commission was informed by this, along with the mayor, and had given their consent that this committee, that this ad hoc committee, would be a good thing for Bradley County to be able to look at how we can work and to create and get better. Because I think that we have one of the best recreation departments around. And I think that what we as a commission, who as the finance chair, as Mylan being the finance chair in this commission, we vote on the budget. And I think that one of the big things that this committee should look at is how that we can find new revenue sources and opportunities for our Parks and Rec department, that our children in this community may have the best facilities possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not any statement against the resolution. This is against the creation of a resolution prior to work session. And if we could have dialogued on this, then we would have known for sure that the rec department is for this. We know for sure the details by bringing that together as a group. It's just a procedural deal that I'm talking about here. I'm all for expanding athletics, obviously. Our grandkids are loving it, what's being done there. And if we can expand it, I'm for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, does that come under your direction, Recreation Department?
Yes, sir.
What you got to say about it?
Like Andy said, I'm fine. I'm always open to looking at ways to improve and all. I think the committee will address the financial obstacles also. But I have no problem with it. The stipulation in there, two stipulations that are in there, is that it will go away at some point and not stay forever, and that they look at this purpose. It's clear that they're not going to be a committee formed by the commission that will be addressing rules and things that came before the commission a couple years ago. That's not the purpose of this committee, and all that's spelled out. So the answer to your question, I have no problem with it.
Okay, well, I've been trying to get lights out on Memphis Road for, ever since the park built out there, and I hadn't heard anything on it yet.
This committee can look at how to pay for those lights.
Well, you figure out how to pay for everything else, let's find a way to pay for them lights.
Commissioner Hughes.
I'll make it quick. Commissioner Rogers, I actually have no issue with the resolution. It was only those two questions. One was the reason I asked if the chairman had co-authored this is because I wanted to make sure that no toes were stepped on, to say, because normally the responsibility of the chairman is to set these ad hoc committees and the members on it. Otherwise, that and the limit, that was the only thing I had issues with. As far as the other resolution, Commissioner Lefford, the truth of it is this will probably it will come up next week. I neither have a concern one way or the other with it. I'm not against it, I'm not for it. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. However, I do believe that I will make a recommendation that it go before the Legal Legislation Committee first, just to cover all the bases, to make sure that there's not a reason that we're doing it the way we are. There could be some reason there because we've done it this way for years. So I'm trying to figure out what it is. And I know the city does it a certain way, the county does it, or other counties do it different ways. That doesn't make it right. I just want to make sure that we're doing it correctly and not making a mistake by going to basically jumping on something that we may need to slow down and look at a little more in depth.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. This resolution was brought to me by the people. This communication from the audience has been 2 years in the making. Of course, you all know, before I became commissioner here, it was discussed in length to the former chairman, Mull, and of course it got heated, and we know all about that. But I simply brought this resolution to the commission because of the people asked me to, and that's what I've done. And you are correct, Cleveland City does do their communication from the audience at the beginning of the meeting, and there's 4 other counties that I've researched: Loudoun County, Ray County, Anderson County, and Jefferson County. Their reasonings for doing it at the beginning, I don't know. That's a good question.
Commissioner Leffler, I know the city does do that, but you have to get a approval to be placed on the agenda first. And it typically has to be on whatever's on that agenda that you can speak. So in other words, they determine who speaks and who doesn't speak beforehand. So there's a lot that we need to look into before we just jump into it.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Rogers, would you mind removing the proposed names, and you and I, after this thing is worked on next week, you and I will get back to it. All right, anything else on these? All right, agenda items. Number A, annual trustee report. Our great Commissioner Marlon Blake.
Great. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. You've elevated, man.
Mr. Chairman, if it's time, well, we're a little past time, our normal time, but that's all right. Our trustee is here to give his annual report. You'll recognize Mr. Mike Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Blake. Appreciate the commission and Mayor Davis inviting me here today to give the annual report. It's usually the first work session in August. Unfortunately, I was dealing with a recovery from COVID then, so I had to put it off. But I'm glad to be here today. It's everyone should have received back in August a copy of the annual report, and I've not got any questions on it up to now. But so I'll go over this quickly. You had a long meeting already, but any questions I'll be glad to answer. 2006. The Bradley County Commission created an investment policy. At that point, the county never had one, and by law, by the state of Tennessee, we were required to have one. And since then, we gauge, one of the biggest things we do is county investments with idle funds, what the state considers idle funds. Idle funds, we are very fortunate in Bradley County to have those. A lot of counties in the state of Tennessee have zero idle funds. They just go just like living paycheck to paycheck. It's very tight on the budget. So we are fortunate to receive interest on some of those funds that we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes. The first thing is our partial payment programs. That's been in place for about 12 years now. Very popular program, and it's helped numerous people in Bradley County pay their property taxes in portions throughout the tax year, or if you're on the 12-month period, we have a 12-month period timetable that you can pay in monthly installments. You can either do that by walking in or mailing in a payment, or by getting on a bank draft. You can see total on the program we went back as far as 2013. It usually increased, just like our tax relief and tax freeze programs, usually increased a couple of hundred each year. But you'll notice in 2020, from 2020 to 2021 and 22, we didn't have many increases, and 2022 had a decrease because of deaths. And that was also during the time that we had our office closed, and we did not promote the program because we didn't want individuals coming into the office at that time. But we have already started through social media. We're going to be in the Cleveland Banner and also WCLE pushing these programs again starting this year. Total amount to be collected is $1.488 million over a 12-month period. And the next slide will show you how much that rollover is in October. It's $622,000. Now, that is a good piece of change in October because there's not anything being collected then. Now, overall, the mayor and I have had this discussion, overall tax, it's not a lot. It really helps us when cash flow is slow. We, as I said, we offer different partial payment plans. Anytime, if they want to pay, we'll take their payment, regardless of when it is during the year. Even if we don't know what their payment's going to be when the bills come out in October, we estimate it off the previous year's total. And then we make adjustments when we do know what that amount is. All partial payment programs have been approved by the Comptroller's Office as well as this commission, Bradley County Commission. Our tax freeze programs. In front of you, you should have a yellow brochure. Caleb Burris, he joined us back in June, and he is a accountant, graduate of Lee University. And Caleb, right here in the blue shirt, and he passed those out. So if you come in, you may see Caleb. You want to come in and talk to the lady that's responsible for working with the state on our tax freeze and tax relief. She's there every day also, a lot of knowledge. And we try to help as many people as we can. The reason I gave you those brochures, I know some of you are going to have community meetings. You may have at your church, you may want to get the message out. If you've got social media pages, please put that on there and let people know about it. We do everything we can to get the message out on that. But if you do have community meetings and you need brochures, we got plenty of them. Just come by the office and we'll be glad to give you the amount that you think you're going to need. Our tax freeze program, we have 1,076 parcels on the tax freeze. That is a county program that was implemented a few years ago by the Bradley County Commission. And what that does is freeze your tax payment at the amount it is the year that you sign up. If you don't do a major renovation, such as an addition, your taxes will not go up. If you just do normal maintenance, roofing, siding, painting, it should stay consistent with the year you signed up. Our tax relief program is a state program. The state pays this money. It comes back in checks to the taxpayers that apply. Now, there is income limits on both tax freeze and tax relief, and this year, both of them are a little over $30,000, counting everyone that's on the deed. So there's so many people out there in your districts that don't know about this program. We have people come in and speak with me numerous times during tax season. I need some help. We don't know, how we're going to pay this. We tell them about our partial payment program. We tell them about these two programs. So help us get that message out. Tax relief, this is the pie chart that we have showing the elderly, disabled veterans, veterans widow, and the disabled. You see the 75% is elderly. Sales tax. Sales tax are collected by the state of Tennessee in locations. Bradley County, City of Cleveland, and the City of Charleston. And you can see, based on the history there, going back all the way to 1718, that the sales tax collections continue to rise. And even during the pandemic, I kept getting reports, monthly reports from state, and we kept seeing increases in our sales tax. And I kept waiting to see a decrease. We never saw a decrease. It always continued to climb, and we're very thankful for that. I hope we see the same thing during the inflationary times that we're seeing now. Sales tax distributions, based on a contract between the city and the county. Those sales tax numbers is on the prior slide. This is the way they're distributed. Bradley County. Okay. Next one. Next one. Next one. Up. Go back. My fault. Sales tax distributions. You can see Bradley County went up. County schools increased. City schools increased. City of Cleveland increased. And City of Charleston increased. That is based on the contract that you have with the City of Cleveland. Tax revenue. This is real, personal, and utilities. So everything that my office collects on the statements we send out, this is the total amount. You can see, if you go back all the way to 2007, $38.2 million was the collection for that year. Now in 2021, we're all the way up to 49,301. That's the biggest reason for that is our building. Our building over the years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, you guys know, saw an empty piece of land. Somebody was trying to get it to build a house on. And so you can see the impact that's had through the years. We have 2021 in lieu of taxes. What this is these are amounts that these businesses pay that the city and county or the county has given these businesses tax breaks to come into Bradley County. So you can see what they were last year. I checked right before we came, and the names may change. Now, some of them are on there long term, such as Walker. They're on there, and we'll see an increase when they go off. But once their tax breaks expire, they'll go off the list. But we're always having new ones come on. This year, we have 11. So we didn't drop many. I think we dropped one, pick up one. So we have 11, 21, and 22 in lieu of taxes. That's $2.9 million. Most of those are, we're glad to have them, but they always pay the last week of February. And Gary and I have had numerous conversations, January and February. Well, let me know when this one comes in. Let me know when this one comes in. So it's not many of them pay ahead of time. So I mentioned the investment policy that required the trustee to present an annual report to you. Part of the investment policy is that Bradley County would try to get 100% of the Fed fund rate for interest earned. Now we didn't want to be able to go in there and set a artificial rate of dollars, saying we're going to get this, and then brag real big when we exceeded that. We wanted a true gauge of how we were doing on the county investments. The Fed fund rate is set by the Federal Reserve Board, and that fluctuates. A year ago, we were getting less on a couple of investments that we had. We're getting less than 0.5%. Now, the last one I got through bidding is 2.8. So you can see how much the interest rates have went up, and we have been lucky enough to stay ahead of the curve. I told you last year that was going to be the challenge, to make sure we didn't get caught behind the curve with the rates being 2.8 or 3 and us down to 1.5%. we've been able to do that, and the way we've been able to do it is go 6 months investments instead of 12 months. If we'd went 12 months, we'd been behind the curve. So luckily, we're staying with 6 months investments, and it's working out really well. 21-22 fiscal year interest earned, 126%. If it was normal times, that rate would usually be between 103 and 108%. Okay, we've been lucky never to go below what the Fed fund rate was that year, but some years we've been up to 700-800%, which is not realistic. And what happened then, we had high investments and the rates dropped like a rock. So we've been very fortunate. That 126 is really good, but if we were in more stable times, I'll say, that would be between 103 and 108%. Our new banking contract is with Pinnacle Bank. That was bid out last summer, and it is through 2027. It'll pay 10 basis points above the federal fund rate on all Bradley County bank accounts. That's tremendous. That was the only one we got that was above the Fed fund rate. So, and we have a lot of money in those accounts. So it's going to be impossible for us to be below the investment policy target with our banking deposits. So that's why we got to continue to pay special attention to our investments, our bid investments. 2006, when we put the investment policy in place, we made some changes also on how we invested the money. And since that time, based on the new investment policy that was put in place then, we increased the amount that would have been earned by $7.2 million. That's a lot of cash. We're very proud of that. Our total interest collected since 2006 is $13.5 million. So we have done very, very well. I've come to the commission on a few times, giving you programs, state programs that we could do and people we could work with and do different things. We still have to follow what the comptroller tells us to do, but you know, we try to stretch everything that allows us to do to stay within the law, but still get the most interest. Our investment committee is Buster Stewart and Gary McDonald. They have offered their advice and counsel through the years free of charge to Bradley County. And we're very fortunate to have those guys. They're both friends of mine, and I can pick the phone up anytime and talk with either one of them on what's the best investment policy, and should we go T-bills or CDs or what looks good to you, and they've always been very, very helpful to Bradley County. Excess fees returned to Bradley County. Bradley County Trustee's Office is a fee office, and I try to run as efficient as I can. The fees that we collect are set by the state of Tennessee based on the activity that we have in our office. And you can see each year how much we have returned to Bradley County, and since 2006, we've returned $12.3 million. Efficiency, we have the last 3 or 4 years really have tried to increase our efficiency through technology. And we went from 46,591 parcels to 54,880, an 18% increase. We continue to collect for the city of Charleston. That's a bargain for them. They pay us pretty much to collect their taxes, pretty much what it would cost them to print their taxes. So it's a benefit to the city of Charleston. We're glad to work with them. HCI funds. I watched some of your meetings that's on YouTube, and I know that just about at least every other meeting somebody's bringing up about the HCI fund. And that's been very good for Bradley County to use those funds the way that I think you guys are using them responsibly. But this is what we currently have. We've used Treasury bills. We've got 3 interfund loans that the prior commission approved. One for the workhouse, one for Spring Branch Industrial Park, one for the courthouse renovation. And what we did, and then talking about a program that we dealt with the comptroller's office, I was wearing the road out to Nashville, meeting with them. It took us 2 years to get final approval. for them to allow us to use this money for interfund loans. And the reason I did that is by using that money, we could give it to the county at a cheaper rate than they could borrow it. And on the opposite side, we were getting more interest for it than what we could get in the open market. So it was benefiting the county both ways. But they finally approved it, and with help from our local legislators and this commission. And so we're really good. If you look at those interfund loans, you'll look at what rate that we have those out at July 1st of this year. You can see every one of them's under 1%. And the way we get to that, the mayor and I negotiate that every year. Every year, every time one of them matures. And it's still working the way we expect it to. Mayor's getting it cheaper than he could get on the open market. We're making more money than we could on the open market. Now, he's not going to like it next time we have to negotiate because they are pretty high right now. But, you know, sometimes it benefits the loans, sometimes it benefits the interest. Total hospital funds, you can see the 17.6 million, return 0.9, and we expect, as top line says, we expect HCI fund to be well over 2% this year. Long-term investments, kind of look at that the same way. You can see that our projected rate of our deposits over 2%. We're well over 2% right now, almost 3%. Capstar, we have a $3 million investment there at 0.47, one at 0.4, Southeast Bank at 0.2 and 0.15. And those, I think, not sure which one it was, but one of them has already matured, and the one we bid out was 2.8%. You can see the increase. We're going to realize it as a county, going from 0.4, 0.2, and 0.1 all the way up to 2.8 in one jump. So you're going to see more money on your investments. Electronic billing. Spoke about technology, trustee's office. Back a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we set a goal of having 40% of all parcels paid electronically. And this year, 35%. So we've been going towards the 40%, and we stand a chance by 2023 reaching that goal. We're hopeful we are. It's taken a lot of work off the clerks in the office as far as foot traffic. So we hope that will continue to increase, and you know, a few years from now, you're going to have greater majority of your tax statements paid electronically. Benefits, reduce labor, printing, mailing cost, and even though we're doing that electronically, I always want to put a statement on there saying, as long as we have taxpayers that wish to have a paper statement, we will send them a paper statement as long as I'm there. We have some that just wants that, and as Bradley County taxpayers, they deserve that. So that's what we'll send. I want to thank you for your assistance. You new commissioners, I've met all of you, and I look forward to working with you and former commissioners. We have a very good working relationship. I want you to know that you can come by my office or call me at any time if you have questions. If I don't know the answer, I've got a good accounting department that does. So we'll be glad to work with you. And as I said, don't forget the brochures. If you need those, be glad to give you plenty of those. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, hey, Mike, just letting you know, we do have our first HCI meeting, the 18th of October. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Trustee. Couple things. I don't know if this is kind of for us. I think about a year ago, you installed a drop box or
Yes.
safety box. How has that been working out?
That worked good. Last year, and we not got anything yet this year, but during last tax season, it was used on a consistent basis.
So we put that in there. We use a tiny little bit of the ARP money to get that drop box in there so that it's a convenience to the taxpayers who want to utilize that.
Well,
You mentioned
Commissioner, it was convenience, and also,
safety.
hopefully we'll never have another pandemic, but if we ever have to shut the office down for any reason, they do have to drop.
That's correct. Thank you. You mentioned a few minutes ago that we all watch the news. In fact, I think the Fed's going to meet next 2 weeks or whatever, and there's another rate increase anticipated, and then another one in December, but who knows? That affects what you have to charge us for those interfund loans, I believe.
Yes.
So when will you just ballpark know what that rate will be? Or
Well,
will
as
you
the
meet with the mayor and go
as the HC fund, interfund loans mature, we don't really look at them till 30 days before they mature. And Gary will send me, he'll check with Cumberland Securities, I believe it is, and he'll send me what's called an MMD rate. And our policy says, in agreement with the comptroller's office, that we can charge up to certain amount. I don't recall the percentage, but we negotiate it. You know, sometimes it needs to be a little higher, sometimes a little lower, based on what the MMD rate is what the HCI funds are at that point. So you really don't know till they mature. Gary does his work, passes it on to me, and then I look at the Fed rate.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, I don't care how windy you are, you do a good job.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Alford.
No question for you, Trustee Smith. HTI has been mentioned several times today. And they say they got a meeting coming up on the 17th. I think it would behoove us to, with all the new commissioners, to put out a list of, I'm sure some of the commissioners don't even know who their HCI person is. So, Lori, if you could develop a list of all the HCI members, the district they live in, and any information that a commissioner might want to know before they meet. Basically, I'd also like the legislation committee to meet maybe before HCI meets, just to go over the old legislative rules and regulations, because I'm sure there's some changes that could be made in that before we actually have an HCI meeting.
Thank you, Commissioners. If y'all have any questions that you think of after the meeting, Lori's got my cell phone. You're welcome to call me, okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lori, did you get a note on Commissioner Alford, and Commissioner Winters, I believe, is chairperson of that committee?
One other thing, Chairman. If you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. Also, I'm sure the new commissioners all have procedures, the commission rules and procedures and so forth. Did everybody get a copy of that, Ms. Lori? Okay. Okay, I would strongly recommend that some of them review that closely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We would continue on with the agenda items. Agenda item B, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, it's a resolution to rezone from FAR Forestry Agricultural Residential District to a C2 General Commercial District property located at Newton Road Southeast and identified tax map 058J, Group E, parcel 004.01 and .002.00 and 3. You can see these on pages 3 and 4. They are being rezoned for mini storages. The owner of this property already has mini storages located near it, and they're just adding to it. It went through planning, passed unanimously.
Any questions? Yes, sir, Commissioner.
You say they're gonna put storages, mini warehouses?
Yes.
Is he the one that owns the ones up on the hill?
He's the property that adjoins it actually is his, that I would assume that's the ones we're talking about, but it's just joining those. It's just, he's adding to it.
Any additional questions? Let's move on to agenda item C, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is just part of house clean for the Planning Commission. It's a resolution to amend the Bradley County zoning resolution to remove two-family dwelling and duplex as a use of permit in a FAR Forestry Agricultural Residential District and in R1 Residential District. Those can be seen on pages 5.
Are there any questions? No questions. Thank you very much. Next item is communication from the audience. Does anyone in the audience care to communicate? Going once, twice, gone. All right, commission, item number 8, announcements, voting session October the 17th at 12 p.m. here in the commission room at the courthouse. Upcoming events, Mambo Under the Stars, October the 13th, 7 to 9 p.m., Museum Center. Household Hazardous Waste Day, October the 15th, 8 a.m. till noon at the Justice Center. Apple Festival, October the 15th, 1 to 6 p.m. downtown square. Groundbreaking, prayer cover, the Carrying Place, October the 17th, 9 a.m.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of order, if I may. I was reading over the resolution here from Commissioner Lefford. On the resolution, it says, legislative body meeting regular session, including attendances on the 17th day of October 2022. And later on it goes adopted, which is our standard. But I believe he put it on the November 7th, if I understood earlier. So we have a resolution that's to be voted on, or the rhetoric in the resolution says October 17th, but maybe it was, maybe misunderstood. Is it next week or is it November 7th?
I'm not sure, Lori. I did, on the voting session November 7th, I think the reasoning is just to be able to discuss it, not to vote on it on the 17th. I didn't really see that till just now, but in my resolution, I put it on the agenda for November 7th voting session. That gives time, because Commissioner Slater won't be back for another week or two, and she also was contacted on this issue and wanted her available to be able to vote on it. So that's the reason I moved it to November the 7th. I guess we could discuss it. Well, no, that's a voting session next week. Yeah, we can strike that, or however we have to do that on the 17th, because I didn't really mean for that to vote on the 17th at all.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I was just looking for clarification. Thank you.
Very, very fine. Anything else?
Chairman, are we gonna vote on that on the 7th or the 17th now?
7th.
7th.
That's next week.
Yeah, if they wanted to. It's on the agenda if someone wanted to bring it up, vote it in or vote it out. That's our prerogative, I guess. Thank you very much. Nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.
It's still on the agenda.
I didn't even see that.
It's still on the agenda.
Where are you going?
Birthday?
Know where you going now?
But anyway.
I'm going right there.
Home?
Yeah.
Want to go eat?